So this is all fine and dandy when you have a monomial as your denominator, but what happens when the denominator is a binomial, so you have two? Well, we want the radicals in the denominator to disappear. Well, we've had success with that before when we use the conjugate. So to do this, we multiply the denominator by a binomial so that the product is a difference of squares. This binomial is called the conjugate. So, like we said before, the conjugate of a plus b is a minus b. The conjugate of 5 plus root 2 is 5 minus root 2. So what's the conjugate of 2 minus root 6? And what's the conjugate of root 2 plus 3? Well, remember folks, with this one, the 2 and the root 6 are going to be the same. The only thing that's going to be different or opposite is the sign between them. So this becomes plus. Or with this one, root 2 plus 3, I'm going to keep the root 2. That was a weird one. I'm going to keep the root 2, and I'm going to keep the 3. But what's going to be different is that sign between them. So that's going to be negative. So when we multiply by the conjugate, the product is a difference of squares, which means that that middle term with the radical in it simply falls away. So let's do these two examples here. So the conjugate of that denominator is going to be 3 root 2 and 4, but we're going to say plus. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this by 3 root 2 plus 4 and 3 root 2 plus 4, because remember we can always multiply any fraction by 1 to maintain the value of it. Now this becomes really, the denominator is very easy actually, because it's just 3 root 2 squared minus 4 squared. So the first term squared minus the second term squared. Now the numerator is a bit more of a spicy meatball, to say the least. Okay, so I'm going to put brackets around this one, and we're going to distribute the 4 to both of those terms. Then we're going to distribute the 2 root 6 to both of those terms. So I'm going to say 4 times 3 root 2 plus 16 plus 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. And what's underneath the radical is 6 times 2 is 12. And then 2 times 4 is 8 root 6. Okay, so we have 12 root 2 plus 16 plus, this one can be simplified a little bit because I have 6 times 4 times 3 plus 8 root 6 all over 9 times 2. 3 squared is 9. Root 2 squared is 2 minus 16. So that equals 12 root 2 plus 16 plus the square root of 4 is 2 times 6 is 12, and what's left over under the radical is root 3 plus 8 root 6 all over 18 minus 16, which is 2. Now, I can factor out a 2 from all of these to get rid of the denominator. So I can say 2 times 6 root 2 plus 8 plus 6 root 3 plus 4 root 6 all over 2. Now I can cancel these two. So then my final answer is going to be 6 root 2 plus 8 plus 6 root 3 plus 4 root 6. Now there's nothing similar, like none of these are like terms, so I can't add them together, so that is my final answer. Just leave it. So here, in the next question, the conjugate of the denominator. Oh, and also it's okay to have square root in the answers. You just can't, in the answer, you just can't have a square root or any sort of radical in the denominator. That's it. So I don't want you to start applying conjugates of the top. Sometimes that happens, like people apply the conjugate of the numerator to the numerator and the conjugate of the denominator to the denominator, but you can't do that because you're not really multiplying by 1. You just have to multiply by the conjugate of the denominator, and you also multiply the numerator by the conjugate of the denominator. So here, the conjugate of denominator, so that would be 3 root 2 minus 2 root 3, because we keep the 3 root 2 and the 2 root 3, but we just change the sign. So I'm just gonna, I kind of cut in a little bit here, so I'm just gonna rewrite it. So 2 root 3 minus 4 root 6 all over 3 root 2 plus 2 root 3, just to give myself a little bit more room. So I'm going to multiply that by the conjugate of the denominator, both numerator and denominator by that. So 3 root 2 plus 2 root 3. This doesn't have to be part of your solution. I just decided to do that before I launched into the question. 3 root 2 plus 2 root 3. So this one, oh sorry, I have to have this as subtraction, not adding. So that equals, the denominator is pretty easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that becomes 3 root 2 squared minus 2 root 3 squared. And now I need to distribute, I'll use the distributive property for the binomial to binomial. Like that. So 2 times 3 is, well actually, do you know what, I'll write out all the steps, the long version. So I have 2 root 3 times 3 root 2 minus 2 root 3 times 2 root 3. The reason why I say minus is because this is negative 2 root 3 multiplied by positive 2 root 3. Then this one is also negative, negative 4 root 6 times 3 root 2. Negative times a negative is going to be positive, so it's plus 4 root 6 times 2 root 3. Whew, got a little squishy there. That's all right. So I'm going to simplify coefficient multiplied by coefficient, radical by radical. So it becomes 6 root 6 minus 2 times 2 is 4. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. Minus 4 times 3, which is 12. Root 6 times root 2 is going to be root 12. 4 times 2 is going to be 8. Root 6 times root 3 is going to be root 18. So we have some simplification that we can do here. All over 3 squared is 9 times root 2 squared is 2 minus 2 squared is 4. Root 3 squared is 3. So I have 6 root 6. I can't do anything with the 6, so don't worry about it. Minus 4 times 3, which is 12. Minus 12 times the square root of 12, which is 4 times 3. Plus 8 times 9 times 2, which is the same thing as our 18. All over 18 minus 12. 9 times 2 is 18. 4 times 3 is 12. So 6 root 6 minus 12 minus the square root of 4 is 2 times 12 is 24. Root 3, because that's what's left over underneath the radicand, plus, or sorry, the radical sign, the radicand is 3. 9 times the square, 8 times the square root of 9, which is 3, so 24 root 2, all over 18 minus 12 is going to be 6. Now I look through this and I'm like, oh yeah, the coefficients, they all have a factor of 6 that I can factor out. So I can factor out a 6 here, so I have 6, and what's left here is root 6 minus 2 minus 24 divided by 6 is 4, root 3, 24 divided by 6 is plus 4, root 2, close bracket, 6 in the bottom. However, I can cancel my 6 on the bottom with the 6 on the top, so then my final answer is going to be root 6 minus 2 minus 4 root 3 plus 4 root 2. And there you have it. So go to the textbook work first, and then if you still need some extra exercises after that, feel free to do the exercises on the back of this note frame.